Forex Fortune Hunters, Tom Wilmot. In this video, we're going to cover the Fibonacci drawing tool. That's this little bugger right here. We haven't covered it in previous videos, and in this one, we're going to tell you exactly which settings seem to work best for me, as well as how to measure where the trend might come to an end. So, hold on to your hat. We'll get started right after this. Okay, you fortune hunters, notice that this particular downward thrust happened, and then there was a bit of a retracement as after the downward bear cycle here, the bulls tried their best to go back and reverse the trend. Unfortunately, they failed, and off we went to the downside. Let's see what Fibonacci has to offer us with this type of a pattern. Here we go. We'll click on it, left click on it, and we'll carry our Fib tool out here. You can see the cross hatch. We're going to left click and drag. Down we go to this area here. Notice that what happens in this particular configuration is that we start at the zero line. We come to 100. We retrace right to the 50%. Sometimes it will go to the 618 right here, and then we continue on down. Notice that we hesitated briefly at this original point of the downward cycle, right in this area here. Then we came down and we began to hover around the 127. You can see the 127 is right here. And then, interestingly enough, to the 1618 extension. Now, there is another level, the 200%. That means that we traveled twice the distance of the first thrust, or I'm doing 1 times the distance of the first thrust here. So this original thrust is copied down to the 200. Notice we came very close to it right here with this touch and so forth. Now, if you want to move your charts around, Fibonacci on Metatrader conveniently attaches itself to the tops and bottoms of these candles and wicks, but you can also, by double clicking on it and getting a dot, you can expand this a little bit. It isn't going to be quite as exact back here, but it will expand your axes to the right, and you can see here is where we came down and then settled at the 200%. Now, I mentioned, I think, in the intro that I don't use this for entries necessarily, although this looks like a place where if our charts and our other templates were installed, we would probably have had, some kind of a pullback to the bands, as it were. But the 50% or the 61.8 are typically used by Fibonacci traders to use as entry. I mostly take a look at some of these target areas, the 127 and the 1618 and the 2, as a place where maybe that trend is going to end. So that's how it's helpful to me. Okay, so just to quickly review the terms once again, we have the beginning and the end of the original thrust. Then we have what's called the retracement. That's why this is called a Fibonacci retracement tool. And then beyond the original point of the downward thrust, we have what are called extensions. One that's popular is the 127, the 1618, and the 200. And once again, I'm not going to get into all of the issues related to the Fibonacci numbering system or whether they work or don't work. I simply want to show you about the chart values and how you can adjust your settings. But before we do that, let's just double check, because it's not only to the downside that this works capably. So we'll get rid of it here by what did I do? I right-clicked and then I deleted it. Okay. We also have the ability to go to the upside. Let's take a look at this particular one and see what was going on. We go from the bottom to the top of the thrust. We see we pull back into the bands here. We come back up and test this 2 or 3 times, and then in this particular case, we came to the 127. Okay, let's try another one. Let's just see what's happening here with this. Here's one that was rather rapid and moved very quickly to the upside. Go from here to here. We were only able to come back and graze the 38%. We went quickly to the 127, on our way up to the 1618 and back up here in this area at the 200. So there's another example. Now, I wanted to let you know also, and it's not as well known, these extensions can operate in reverse. Let's see if I can find another place where you can see that more clearly. This is, by the way, a 30-minute chart of the AUD and the USD. Let's see if we've got one. This is an extension to the downside, and let's see what happens here. Here's a great example of it. If we were to say this is the thrust that's happening here, what's going on with this one, we can also go to the reverse. And so what you're going to notice here is that I have the extension lines on both sides of the original. This would be the extension to the downside, which is what we saw before. Notice that this works equally well in reverse. And it's not, it is used as often by many traders. So this is kind of a tip for you that this can go also in reverse and help you measure. Notice that we got to the 1618 extension to the upside, and then we continue to the 2 and even on beyond that. So these tools are helpful both in forward and reverse to kind of see where you might be wanting to take some profits or scale out of your positions. Okay, fortune hunters, now what we're going to do is the second section that's so important, and that is the issue of what should my settings be. And when you get your Fibonacci tool, bottom line is, first time on the chart, you're not going to get the same lines as you've seen in mine. We're going to pull it out here and see what's going on. We come down to this area. What you're going to find in most of the iterations of it are some extra retracement lines. I stripped those out actually in order to end up just with the 618, with the 50% and the 38.2. Now, how do you get to that area and see what's going on? Well, let's right-click here. We'll go to our objects list. We'll go to the Fibonacci, and we're going to edit it. And in this particular case, the only problem here is it's a little cramped, but notice that we have here the 0 level, the 38.2 level, the halfway level, the 618 level, and the 1, the extension. So that's the original extension, and those will always be on your chart. The ones that will probably be in here are 27 something or other, and if you click on those, like I'm doing here, you could go over here and delete it. We're not going to do that because we want to keep the 38.2. Okay? So now what we do is we come down here, though, and we want to add a 1618 extension and also a 1.27 extension. Now, before we do that, I want to tell you one other quick tip, and that is if you add in the description area here, you want the 127, so I've got the 1.27. If I add a percentage sign and a dollar sign after a space, that will also list the price at which that line is being drawn. Notice I've done it here. And notice in this particular case, in order to go on both sides of my original thrust, I've got a plus 1.27 and a minus 0.27, and those are the areas where we have, again, price levels. And what I'm going to do this time is to show you that if I get rid of this one here, by getting rid of the price tag, we're going to have one 127 with price. The other is a reverse, which is 1.27 without, and we'll be able to tell the difference between the two so that you can see whether this is an extension or a reversal with the minus sign. Okay, let's try that. And we're going to close this. Now notice here what we have in this particular area. This is the extension with the R on it. And notice if we, by the way, if you come over here to your right-hand column, left click and drag, we can see the upside here. The one without the price is the one which has either the negative or positive value. I'm going to add those values and an explanation in words on my blog site, but bottom line is you'll just have to experiment with it a little bit, and it's kind of counterintuitive because the numbers are a little different for the extension side versus the reversal side. Okay, let's quickly review what we've been up to here as best we can with the video. We're going to right-click on this, and you can see that the Fibonacci tool has now been captured. We right-click, we come to the objects list. If you want to see all of the objects that are listed there, for purposes, however, of this particular exercise, what we're going to do is right-click and click on the Fibo properties for this particular one. And now we can review. We see the level. This is the actual number you enter. You don't ever have to enter a description if you don't want to, but obviously 0 and 100. Once again, this is flipped a bit, but you can experiment with what labels you'd like to have. We've also suggested that if you use the percentage sign followed by the dollar sign after a space, that you'll get the price level attached to this particular line. And we have then in the middle the 38.2, the 50, and the 61.8. And then down below that we have the 1. And in fact, you see the 1 in Fibonacci world is actually consistent with 0. So that would be this line here is the 0 line, and we continue on down, and they are reversed. So this actually is 1, and this is 0, but no matter. Get your labels in so they're all straight. Then I've added the 1618 and the 1.27. I've added those price levels there, and these are the positive values are for the reversal actually up here, because you can see the 127 has a price attached to it, and so the positive value is actually the reversal and the further retracement backwards in the price action that's occurred here. Down below, the 0.27 and the 0.618 are the values here that we have on the downside, the reversal, and the reversal, and I simply put that in to show an R. You can play around with it yourselves. Now, notice that a -1 is on the downside. That says 200%. That's our value right here. And 2 is the reversal, because the retracement would have to be twice the distance to get back up to that 200% line way up in this neck of the woods up here. Now, as I said before, I'm going to put the values in the blog site. I hope you'll take a chance to use the link in the description below to get to the right page on fxfortunehunter.com, and you'll be able to see a review of this with the values in plain black and white. And I hope that in the meantime helps you just to add this one more piece of ammunition to your trading kit.